Greetings and welcome to Unit 5 of Module 1 of TALG. TALG is Teaching and Learning in General Programs. The Unit 5 is going to address the issue of accreditation. In the last unit, we understood that outcome based education was proposed way back in 70s and mainly in response to the need to have some kind of instruments to obtain information on what students are actually learning across schools. Not what they were taught, but what they were learning. So an outcome based education is what the student should be able to do at the end of a program or a course or an instructional unit. And we identified there are 3 levels of outcomes that are of concern to an undergraduate general programs. Now in this unit we will try to understand the role of accreditation, because accreditation plays a major role in terms of designing outcome based education as well. Understand the criteria of NAAC self study report. Okay, what is the role of NAAC? We will try to understand. Understand the centrality of closing the quality loop at the levels of COs, POs and PSOs. These are the 3 outcomes we will try to address. First of all, we need to understand what is accreditation. Accreditation is a quality assurance scheme. Quality standards are set by a designated agency from the perspective of stakeholders, because one should understand when I have an institution running and I am trying to get enroll students and train them and then award a degree. So some agency in the country will have to look at to what are you trying to follow certain quality standards. That means what you are doing is satisfactory, because the graduates of the program are becoming the employees of various organizations. So accreditation sets the quality standards, and also what they do, this agency will over a period of time will keep evolving the quality standards and make it compatible with international practices. So what happens, the graduates of our programs are comparable to graduates of similar programs elsewhere in the world. And as far as a teacher or a student is concerned within an institute, the quality standards provide a framework for planning and conducting all activities of an institution. It is the quality standards are not only specifically with respect to teaching and learning, but every facet of the institution, like how are you recruiting people, or how are you admitting students, what process you are following, are you maintaining a campus that not only takes care of just simply teaching and learning in a classroom, but all other co-curricular and extracurricular activities. How is the institute interacting with the world outside, and what kind of activity it is proposing to improve, or other characteristics of its graduates, and so on and on. So quality standards, they address not only the teaching and learning, but also every facet of the institute. And now why should we go for accreditation? Preparing for accreditation can lead to continuous improvements to the quality of learning. It provides even a framework to continuously improve, and it can lead to better placements, better quality of student intake, better brand name, better contribution to society, better chances of funding from all types of agencies, better revenue generation even for a college, and in summary a kind of a better mindset of all the people participating, that is faculty, staff, management, students, everyone. Now, this is something that this is how we can portray the relationship or what is happening in an undergraduate institution. For example, graduates of 12th standard are the inputs to this. Institutions offering undergraduate general programs, the institution consists of management, faculty and academic process, and graduate students are the inputs, and the activities of this are directly or indirectly controlled by the university, state government, UGC, NAC, and to a certain extent parents, employers, and technology is used by the institution. And altogether the institution, under the influence of all the others actors and stakeholders, produce graduates of general programs. Essentially who are graduates of general programs? Who pass the examinations. And these graduates, what do? They seek a placement, or they go for higher education, or they can write some of the competitive exams, and they may become, a small number of them may become entrepreneurs, or just strictly get into a kind of entrepreneurship which has nothing to do with the kind of specialization that he has gone through. Now, this seeking of any of these activity will depend on social factors, market factors and economic factors, which are not necessarily in the control of the institute. So, an institute cannot guarantee these outputs. They cannot guarantee placement, higher, expecting majority of them go for higher education and so on, because all these factors will decide what happens to the where the graduates actually go. Now, this is how the general programs in pre-2017 were happening. Now, post accreditation prior to 2017, the focus was on inputs, processes and outputs. That is, are you getting right kind of students, the how many seats are getting filled and so on, whether the classes are getting conducted. These are all the processes, and you have all the processes happening or not. And then the outputs we have seen, they are related to placements, number of graduates going for higher education and the number of entrepreneurs. As we said, these outputs did not necessarily measure what the students learned. And post 2017, the NAC has changed its framework. Now, NAC, if you look at National Assessment and Accreditation Council, was established in 1994 as an autonomous institution of UGC. Even now it is like that, it comes directly under UGC, but NAC revised the assessment and accreditation framework effective from July 2017. And it represents an explicit paradigm shift, making it ICT enabled. That means the entire NAC accreditation process is heavily ICT enabled. Then it is made as much objective as possible, and it is transparent, and it is scalable, and it is robust. So, all factors were taken into consideration in designing the accreditation framework in 2017. Now, general programs after 2017, how do they look? Except for the marked one, the rest of them remain the same. But now you say the institute should produce graduates with certain defined abilities. These defined abilities are expressed as POs, PSOs and COs. That is the major difference. That means I am telling the world I am producing graduates who have attained, need not necessarily be 100%, they have attained the well defined POs, PSOs and COs. That is the major difference between the programs prior to 2017 and after 2017. Now, NAAC accreditation post 2017, as we said, the focus is also on inputs, processes, but outcomes and the attainment and outputs. That is the focus. Now, to repeat, outcomes represent what knowledge, skills and attitude students will be able to demonstrate at the time of graduation. We do not say what they have studied, what kind of subjects or courses they have done. We do not talk in that language. What specific knowledge, skills and attitudes have they acquired at the time of graduation. And outcomes are identified at the program level and the course level by the university's institution and also by the departments. It depends on what kind of institution you are, and we will presently see NAAC recognizes 3 types of institutions: university, autonomous college and affiliated college. They have classified institutions into these 3, and the expectations from each one of them are somewhat different. And the institution uses the results of calculating the attainment of outcomes to continuously improve the levels of attainment of outcomes. So, you measure something and based on that you plan to improve it further. Now, let us understand the assessment process of NAAC. Based on the quality indicator framework that has been defined, there are 3 main components. One is self-study report, SSR as they call it, and student satisfaction survey. It is generally done by a third party, and peer team report. Okay. How is this? That means the institute submits a self-study report in a particular structure that is already predefined by NAAC. You fill in all the details and it is electronically submitted to NAAC. And then what happens based on after that, the NAAC will appoint a peer team. That means some faculty selected from other institutions. That team will come and visit the institute and give a report, and then a third party will conduct a student satisfaction survey online, and the results of all the 3 are integrated once again by a software tool, and it will produce a number, and we will see that different grades are given to different institutions. The quality indicator framework has 7 criteria: curricular aspects, teaching, learning and evaluation, research, innovations and extension, infrastructure and learning resources, student support and progression, governance, leadership and management, and institutional values and best practices. And these are the 7 criteria. Under each criterion you have some key indicators. They are not equal in number across all criteria, but there are key indicators, and once again each key indicator is further delineated as metrics. That means there are you can call them sub key indicators, but they are called metrics. Now, the assessment summary, if you look at, the 7 criteria are shown, and then U is university, AU is autonomous college, and AFF is affiliated college. The reason between why there is considerable difference between affiliated and autonomous college is that affiliated college, they cannot take several independent decisions. They are decided by the university. So that's why the weightages are correspondingly adjusted. For example, curricular aspects. Designing the curriculum is the responsibility of the university and or an autonomous college, but not that of affiliated institution. But to that extent, the weightage given to the affiliated college is somewhat reduced. It is only 100 marks, whereas for the other two 150 marks. Teaching, learning and evaluation, that is where the affiliated college has maximum role to play, and that is why 350 marks are given, whereas less marks are given for autonomous and university. Coming to research and innovation and extension, the university has a lot more responsibility. That is why you are given 250 and autonomous college 150, and the number of marks given to affiliated college is 120. In an affiliated college, because of the very nature of the institution, the teachers are likely to have less time for any kind of thing, research, innovation or extension. But it is not zero. That means the affiliated college cannot just merely take a position that my role is only to teach. They have to be involved in some amount of research, innovation and extension, whatever they do. Otherwise, the 120 marks that are allocated out of 1000 are at stake. The others, as you can see, predominantly they are almost the same marks except for minor differences. Infrastructure and learning resources, everyone should have the appropriate one. Student support and progression, a few more marks for affiliated. Governance, leadership and management, these there are a whole, unless all the key indicators are attained, you lose marks out of that 100. Institutional values and best practices, this is a very interesting thing that was included. By doing several activities, for example, if you get into the details of this, you will find that there are several things that can be done as an institution. So 100 marks for that. The way the accreditation is done is by way of what you call, you have 1000 marks identified. Out of this, they are divided into 7 criteria, and the depending on the marks that you get out of this 1000, first thing is you are accredited or not accredited. If you are accredited, they will give some grade like ABC. Okay, that is how it is done. But now finally, how is this obtained? The performance of an institute is measured through 7 criteria, and each criterion is again measured using a set of key indicators, and these key indicators have further looked through or measured through a set of metrics. These metrics can be qualitative or quantitative, and these metrics and key indicators differ from one type of institution to another. Like for example, the key indicators for universities are 34, and for autonomous institution also it is 34. For affiliated and constituent colleges, they are 31 and 32. Whereas the qualitative metrics are 34, 35, 33 and 36. Whereas the quantitative metrics are 79, 72, 58 and 60. The qualitative metrics are measured using the report prepared by the college or by the institution, and the visiting committee will evaluate that and give marks according to that. Whereas quantitative metrics are measured by institute providing the relevant data, and the software tool at NAC will verify the data and award marks based on the performance of the institute. So the quantitative metrics actually dominate and they are based on the data. So how is the grade sheet done? You have 7 criteria: system generated score, as you call it, based on quantitative metrics. Once you submit, the software just calculates and gives you a score, and then that score is not known to the peer committee which visits the institute. And then peer score means the committee that visits the institute and inspects, talk to people and so on, they are qualitative metrics, against that they will give marks. The institutional grade sheet is based on qualitative metrics, quantitative metrics, and the student satisfaction survey. Now if you look at broadly, the 70% of the marks are for quantitative metrics. Out of 1000, 700 marks go as per the quantitative metrics. About 27% of the marks are decided by peer committee, and it is based on they generate the score after the visit, and remaining 3% is based on the student satisfaction survey, which is conducted online. So as you can see, 73% of the marks are somehow decided by a tool based on the data. Now these are the commitments now when you are doing your affairs and trying to get accredited and so on. After an institution is accredited for the first time by NAC, the role of what you call IQAC, Internal Quality Assurance Cell, becomes central to quality assurance and academic and administrative audit. That means they not only regularly conduct academic and administrative audit internally, but any time the university or UGC or NAC, they want certain type of information to be provided, either for accreditation or for any other kind of thing, it is the IQAC cell that places the interface between the institute and UGC and NAC. So when you are trying to do that, all the departments and all the faculty have to cooperate or be part of this quality assurance cell, and in trying to supply the required information in a common format. Okay. That what format the information has to be sought is generally decided by IQAC depending on the requirement of the external agency. And even the functioning of IQAC is specified by NAC. That means IQAC should function in one particular way. There should be a committee that looks after its affairs, and periodically you change the committee. They have to maintain certain documentation, and they have to every year they have to submit a report to NAC and so on. So the IQAC should function as per the specifications of NAC, and eventually all faculty will get to operate through this. And institutions should identify, sustain, disseminate and adopt best practices. What are these best practices? Let us say some teacher has experimented with certain way of teaching and found it is very useful. Can that is students have learned better, or they participated better. So whatever activity that a teacher has experimented and found that it led to better learning, that kind of thing should be documented, how the measurement has been done, and established truly there has been an improvement in the learning. Once all that is established, that best practice is to be collected by IQAC, for example, and it should be disseminated, made available to not only to all the faculty of the institute, but generally to the university and the world outside through its website. And another role that they have to play, the institute should ensure that its students respond to the online student satisfaction survey. Generally this student satisfaction survey is done with the final year students before they leave the institute and the alumni of the institute. So you keep track of them, you keep track of their email IDs, and whenever a survey like this is to be conducted, the agency should be able to contact the alumni of the institute and the final year students. So the survey is then it becomes comprehensive. It is mainly for student satisfaction survey. Now what does NAAC require? NAAC requires that all programs of higher education institutions identify their program outcomes, program specific outcomes, and all courses are to be defined in terms of course outcomes, and the institution should demonstrate the attainment of COs, POs and PSOs. So coming back to our outcome based education module. So our requirement now is, because NAAC requires that you identify your POs and PSOs and COs and also demonstrate their attainment. That is what we will do in the rest of the units. Now what there is, as I said, there is one fundamental issue called closing the quality loop. That is the purpose of insisting on the accreditation. Many of the processes required for accreditation need to have the step of closing the loop. What is this loop? We call it Deming's quality cycle. Deming's quality cycle has come with respect to industries and production and so on. So here what you do, you plan something, you want to get something, and then actually do, okay, and then check whether have I attained something, and then depending on checking what I have attained, then I will again act. So that is the what you call the quality cycle. Let us look at what exactly do we do in this. We plan the activity, do it, measure the performance, that is checking, and finally based on what was planned and what was actually achieved, initiate appropriate action commencing the next round of quality cycle. That is what it is. That means plan here would mean what are the outcomes I am trying to achieve. Okay, what outcome should be attained, that is writing the outcomes is a planning. And also I set a target, that means I should be able to attain this, achieve this target. And then actually you teach and conduct your assessment and evaluation and all that is doing. Then you measure the performance of your students and then check how far you are from the target. Depending on the attainment gap of the target, you plan what to do next and initiate the action for closing the gap or improving the or increasing the target. That means if the assessment lags behind the planned target, we need to further analyze the reasons and for the same and plan suitable corrective actions for the next round. A teacher, when he teaches in the classroom, will know clearly where the students are finding it difficult, where the adequate time is not given or more problems to be solved. All that will be the teacher will understand during the process of doing, and then he can plan for the next round what exactly to be improved in that. If the achievement exceeds the planned target, you raise the bar, you increase the target, enhance the target, and then we need to plan for achieving the new target level. So that is how the quality cycle will go on, and this will also lead to obviously continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is one of the goals of as specified by NAAC. That means every institution should strive for continuous improvement. You cannot stay static. Whatever one is doing, you should be able to do better next year. So you should continuously improve the attainment of the outcomes. But as we all realize, the quality of learning will depend very much on the context characterized by students. Students are not the same every year. Teachers also come and go, and the processes determined by the system also will change. The management, technology, curriculum and infrastructure, all of them play a role. So nothing is static. So you have to constantly adjust yourself to ensure that the quality of learning is continuously improving rather than going down. And by going through this process of closing the quality loop, it enables the departments to focus on some specific actions leading to incremental improvements. You cannot vaguely say, oh, this year students are not that very particularly good, we need to change the tools that are available and so on. You cannot vaguely say, you have to be very specific. With regard to this course, these are the additional experiments that I have to add in the lab, or this is the way, these are the additional presentations that need to be made by experts and so on like that. It has to lead to specific actions. That is the core of continuous improvement. So continuous improvement in the quality of learning is what characterizes the essence of the present NAAC accreditation. That should be remembered, and all faculty, irrespective of their whether they are very new entrants or to the very senior faculty, all of them will have to be part of this continuous improvement process. Now we request you, again doing this exercise more to engage with what has been presented, and by doing this many of these things will be internalized. So try to answer these questions. What are the differences between outputs and outcomes? Who is benefited by accreditation and how? Write maximum 250 words. What in your view are the advantages and disadvantages of accreditation? For example, somebody can say disadvantage is the workload of faculty will significantly increase writing all these reports. One can say that is a disadvantage. Present your own view through a diagram of the dependence of the quality of learning on specific factors related to a course you taught. Take a course, there is that subject has its own particular features, and then you have certain context and some infrastructure related to that, and you have certain type of students coming to you. Identify all the factors that lead to, that influence the quality of learning. Quality of learning is defined in terms of course outcomes and their attainment. That is how we mention the quality. So you can also share the responses with the instructor. We will be happy to listen to or experience or understand your experiences better. You can send it to this particular email ID. And in the next unit 6, we understand the nature and importance of program outcomes in design and conduct of general programs. And after that we will also look at PSOs. So after understanding POs and PSOs, we will move on to how to write course outcomes. Thank you very much.